Okay, so this is going to be a lesson in from a peer who is in dialectical behavior therapy. My name is Rachel Gill. I'm not a professional. I'm just somebody who's been through dialectical behavior therapy and trying to teach people that are also wanting to learn these skills a little bit from what I know from a peer perspective. So um, let's get to the lesson on interpersonal effectiveness skills. So, in DBT, we have a set of skills for interpersonal effectiveness. And why do we want to do interpersonal effectiveness? First of all, well, these skills are a roadmap for getting what you want through effective communication. And in DBT, the skills we remember by an acronym which goes by DEAR, MAN, GIVE, FAST. And they kind of go, they don't have to go in this order, but the way I'm going to be teaching you in this section video is going to be in a particular order that they're written in the acronym. So let's start with describe. Okay, so the reason that these things work is because these skills are formulated in such a way that will help you get what you want, because when we communicate, especially when it's something that we feel really passionate about or there might be conflict, it's easy to get really emotional, and sometimes these emotions can work against us. Because anger, for instance, is something that is appropriate or justified when something that we want is blocked. So let's say somebody, is not, fulfilling, something that you want or that you need. It makes sense that would make you angry because something that you want or need is being blocked. However, the problem with this emotion which fits the situation is that anger is not very good at convincing others to go get on board with what our need or desire is, because it has a way of pushing people away. So these are going to be skills that will help you be able to be convincing, because ultimately you want to convince this person to help you, and these skills will help you get there. So the first thing we want to do is we want to describe what the situation is, what it is we want. So we're going to use my something for me, for example. We'll use myself as an example for the worksheet. Let's see. Well, we don't have to go to do the worksheet, but we'll run through the skills, and there'll be a worksheet in this packet that you can do to on your own situation, but we'll use me as an example. So first thing you want to do is describe the situation and what it is you want or need. In using the skill, the key point is to remember to stick to the observable facts and describe them non-judgmentally. So, you want to make statements just be exactly what the facts are, and and keep your language from being in the you. You might want to say, well, you do this, and I want, it's better to make I statements. So let's say the problem for me will be, unfortunately, my fiance is not a very timely person, and unfortunately, I have abandonment issues, which cause me to freak out when a person's even just a little bit late. So, we fit in every other area, but this is the one that kind of sucks for both of us, because, he kind of has to pay the consequences for my past, and then I have to go through the turmoil of because of his not being very good at being on time. So I wanted to really address the issue, and we had talked about it before, and it would just be like, I'm sorry, I'll work on it, so I'd freak out, and I would just have and nothing would ever get solved because I was too busy having a crisis. So when I finally was able to be effective in communicating this to him, first I had to describe the problem. So it'd be like, okay, fiance, you see, I have this whole past where my parents would leave me places, and so now whenever you're a little bit late, I go back into that experience of my parents, even though it has nothing to do with you. I go through this whole turmoil, and then I end up having this crisis, and then you have to go through it. And so when you're late, it really is, it hurts me a lot because I have to go through this thing. And it's not that you're doing it on purpose. It's just unfortunate. And I really, it's a problem that I really want to address. So notice how like I'm describing the problem just as it is, from the way I see it, and I'm trying to like describe it in detail, because if I just said, when you're late, you know what, I want to hurt myself when you're late. It's just like, well, I don't have no reason for living, because it's like you don't care, and so you say you're going to be here and you're not going to be here, so what's the point in anything? That doesn't really, while it may kind of like, actually I don't know how that would be effective on any level, because it never was effective on any level. That's why I'm in DBT. So, first thing you want to do is describe the problem. Okay. The next thing is express your feelings and thoughts and opinions about the situation to describe. In doing this, it is wise to begin your statements in a manner that promotes active listening. This is achievable by using I statements in as I think, I feel, and likewise avoiding statements that begin with you, which may be misinterpreted as blame or accusation. So notice how, like I said, when you are late, I feel like I'm going through this experience again, and I feel like you don't love me, or I feel like you don't care. But telling him, you don't care because you're not late, that's not true, because I don't know how he feels. All I know is how I feel. So you want to express those feelings. So and keep it, remember, you're always keeping it non-judgmental. Stick with the facts. Your feelings are your facts, but other people's feelings are their facts, and you can't get those from them unless you ask them. We like to think we know what other people are feeling, but we really don't unless we ask them. We can only observe our own feelings. So then after you express, how you feel about the problem, the situation that you describe, you want to assert and you want to state exactly what it is that you want to fix the situation. What is it that you are asking from this person that they can reasonably give you, that you want from them to address the problem that you describe? So for me, it was, okay, I want you to tell me that when you're going to be here, you're going to be here. And if you're not, or if you don't know, you will tell me you don't know, or you will call me, or I can get a hold of you, Otherwise, but please, I just don't want you to tell me you're going to be here and then not be here, and like it's been going. I need you to be able to be available, or to stick to a time, or not stick to a time. But I can't have these things, this unknowingness where it's just kind of wishy-washy, and just stick to that. And if you leave while I'm asleep, leave a note. Just leave a little note saying, hey, I went to the store, so that I don't wake up and go, oh my gosh, I'm 7 years old again, and my parents are gone, and now I don't know when they're going to ever come pick me. It's like I have a lot of this stuff that I need to, process, that it has nothing to do with him. And by him being mindful and working on being more timely with me, it gives me the opportunity to work on my stuff. See, now I'm going into reinforcing. See, reinforcing, after you stated it exactly it is what you want, then you want to tell them why it would be good for them to do what it is that you are asking of them. Because, every person's going to want to be, a benefit of putting effort into anything. It's just the way a mutual relationship works, you both get something out of it. So reinforce, tell them why it would be good for them to do what it is what you want. So in my case, by him being more mindful and working on being more timely with me, and even though it's, more than probably the average relationship might demand, he's giving me the opportunity to work on working through that trauma and building mastery in my DBT skills, so that I can be able to learn how to manage those responses and overcome them, is the ultimate goal. So, that gives him motivation to say, okay, well, there's a reason for this, for me to give effort for this. Because if I'm just saying, I just want you to do this because, I need you to do this, and then it's kind of like, well, okay, it's a lot more convincing when you can give people something that will motivate them to want to work, to come over to what you're asking of them. Now, you want to always be wise in choosing what your words and your tone of voice and your body posture, pay attention to your body language, facial expressions, the volume and tone of your voice. judgmental statements so that you may present yourself in a clear, cordial, but firm, non-judgmental, and respectful manner, which will strengthen communication and will reduce opportunity for misinterpretations or conflict. The way I do it is whenever I go, like the last time I went to go rent a car, it was just like a really tense situation. And as we're waiting in line, like the whole thing I just kept telling myself is, I got to get this person to be my friend. I got to get this person to be my friend. I got to get this person to be my friend. I'm sure I was angry because I had to wait in line and there was not enough people up there, but that was irrelevant to my goal because I needed this person to work with me. And not only did I end up leaving with a car, even though we didn't have all the stuff we needed, she was ready to let me leave with a Mustang. And I ended up getting this really big van that was like twice as much, and I ended up paying less than the coupon that I gave her in the first place. I mean, that was some powerful stuff. And it was all because I tried to come around to her side and treat her in a respectful manner, even though my anger was justified, because sometimes justified anger is just not helpful to what you're trying to do, and especially when you're trying to get something from somebody in its a tense situation. So you want to also be confident. Be confident in how you communicate. Use eye contact if you're doing this in person. Speak calmly, clearly, nodding affirmatively when others are describing, expressing, asserting their concerns, and adopting a willing posture. So, sit forward attentively, avoid crossing your arms, offering open palms, smile. For me, what I do is I rehearse it, like, especially if it's a really difficult situation, and it's somebody I really care about, or, a close relationship. Those are more distressing for me. I will actually sit down and I will do a worksheet every time, and then I will rehearse it, and then I will even have it, like, if I'm like making a phone call, I will have it in front of me so that I can like reference it, because I get so emotionally dysregulated the more important the situation and the relationship is, that it helps to go over it, because then you have a way to, you have a kind of a frame of mind of what you're going to say and what you're going to do, instead of going, okay, I'm going to take care of this. Then you go into it, and then all of a sudden your emotions go out of control, and you're like, whoa. And then next thing you know, you're like hanging up, or there's screaming, and it's a mess. I mean, I've ended so many like conversations with people on the phone from just screaming at my head off at them, and it's not effective, and now I can make phone calls to the customer service, and I'm just like cool as a cucumber, and I get what needs to be done, and all because I applied these skills and I used these skills. So you also want to be able to negotiate, because people, we don't always get what we don't always get what we want, but if we're willing, we can usually find a decent compromise. So be willing to accept the fact that you might not get exactly what it is you're asking for, and that if you are willing to think about adjusting what it is that you want, then you may get at least part of what you want instead of nothing at all. So when there's be willing to compromise, and when there's competing points of view, proposals rarely find acceptance without negotiating the details. So it's important to be open, flexible to adjustments, and even better to come prepared with alternative solutions. So think about what it is that you want that's the ideal, and like think about what the least, what's the minimum that you'll do, so that you have some room to work with in what you're asking of, if they decide, well, that's not going to work for them. Be gentle, be respectful in your manner of communication, emphasizing kindness and courteousness. Like, I get in the framework, I need this person to be my friend, so I'm thinking about how can I bring this person, make them feel comfortable, and like get them to be willing to kind of talk to me here about this issue, even if it is something that's kind of uncomfortable. Refrain from comments that may be offensive or seen as a personal judgment of another's character. For example, rather than saying you are a control freak and it's causing problems, try like, I realize that you're really inclined towards leadership and I have some concerns I would really like to share with you. Also, another helpful tip is to remember to try using and where you could normally use but. Especially where there's criticizing, because it has a way of negating if you use but. When you use and, it sounds more like they're both equal sides. By doing this, you avoid negating the positive. To illustrate the point, notice the difference in replacing and but with the following statements above. Which one is that? Oh, yeah. No. Oh yeah, right. So I realize that you're inclined towards leadership, but I have some concerns. See, as opposed to I realize that you're inclined toward leadership and I have some concerns. See the difference in that? And this is a really important thing. This and replacing and in places of but when you're communicating feelings, because people who have BPTs tend to invalidate their own emotions a lot, and they and will interpret things that are maybe not necessarily meant to be as an accusation towards their emotions or our emotions, because I have BPD, and we can misinterpret it. Whereas that simple change of those from and to but can mean the world of difference if you're communicating with somebody who has BPD, or just in general with people in general. Be interested. Show others you're interested by using eye contact, affirmative nodding, and not interrupting others when they're speaking. After you have your chance to say your piece, and you lay it all down, then be receptive to them and listen to everything that they have to say. Listen to their concerns. Let them express how they feel about the problem. Let them, tell them what they would like to, and be receptive to their point of view, as you would want them to be receptive to yours. In replying, reflect back what has been said, and to clarify that that you are hearing them. So if they're saying, well, I feel like I just haven't been able to reach you here, and you're like, so, kind of reflect that back. Say, so it sounds like you seem like you can't really, you're having a hard time, connecting with me or being able to reach me or get on some kind of level with me. Is that right? Kind of let them know that you're listening, and that you want to make sure that you're understanding them completely. And always and always listen to the complete thing of what they're saying before trying to jump in and interpret what they're saying. Validate. So you want to acknowledge their feelings, just like they'll say, like when they say, well, I just feel really frustrated with this whole problem, then you say, I see that you're frustrated, and that's why I'm here, I see that this is causing you frustration, and it's, and I think that's something we mutually share. You want to, just as you would want them to acknowledge your feelings, you want to do the same. So it makes sense that you are frustrated when you feel like no one's listening to you. The key point is just remember that the goal is to acknowledge, not necessarily agree with or encourage particular feelings. Use an easy manner. Present a flexible and calm demeanor. When the situation is tense, use humor if appropriate. This can be difficult, and smile. The more warmth and attentiveness you show to others, the more likely they will be wanting to work with you. And this makes sense. Be fair and objective in your conclusions. If you're going to criticize another, make sure your opinions arrive by attending to a balancing facts or a reinforcing statement or something, facts. It's better to rely on facts than relying on personal preference or emotions. But that's express is the skill where you attend to that. The rest of the time you are just attending to the facts, Be apology free. So consider the following statement. I am sorry, but I have to disagree with you. If you describe, express, and assert yourself appropriately and according to your personal values, unnecessarily apologizing simply because your point of view may not match that of those with whom you are communicating with only serves to weaken the appearance of sincerity when a true apology is warranted. So when you're saying, like, I'm sorry, I disagree with you, well, it's okay to disagree, and by apologizing unnecessarily when it is time for when an apology is really necessary, people may not take you seriously or might not seem as sincere because because you use the communication so interchangeably. So you really want to stay succinct. You want to stick to the facts and really be clear about what you're communicating. Stick to your values. Know what your personal values and ethics and morals are, and do not compromise them for the sake of avoiding conflict or appeasing others. So if you know what you want, when you assert what you want, and you know exactly what you want, and you know exactly what the minimum you'll take, do not budge just because the other person because they're trying to tell you that you should feel this way or that you should do what they want you to. This is about what you want and what you need, and so you want to stick to those values. Say I can't. I hear what you're saying, and this is as far as I can go. I really want to come to an agreement here. And this is the bottom line. This is where my values are, and I have to abide by that. Be truthful. Stick to the facts and avoid exaggerating, embellishing, or making judgmental statements. Rather than saying he was totally rude, restate your assumption factually. He kept interrupting others while they were speaking. One's a fact, one's an opinion. Okay, so that was the dear man. And let's see. Wait, let's go back up here. Right. Did we go over it? We went over the interested, validate. So yeah, we went over all of them. The worksheet that's attached to this is for you to use when you're working on your own problem. And I recommend that you use it. Actually, fill it out before you even go to tackle the problem. Describe the problem. Write it out. Just express your feelings. Write it out, and then rehearse it. So that especially if you have really intense emotions, because you're going to want to have as much tools that you can find to get you through the situation, because especially if you have borderline personality disorder, interpersonal relations are like one of the most at the crux of a lot of our problem behaviors and a lot of our problems with that go along with the disorder. So it's really, really, really important for us to really be mindful in using these skills so that in a way that we can build mastery and get the most out of them. So fill it out, and this will cover the dear part, and then it goes to the man right here. So if you want to download the worksheet, you can go to ilovedbt.com, and it'll land you on the first page. It'll be handouts and worksheets. Scroll down to interpersonal effectiveness and get the Dear Man handout by Rachel Gill. There's other ones there too. Feel free to download as many as you want. Yeah, I hope that you find this this useful. And okay, now I'm going to all this other stuff, and that you come back with and learn some more lessons with us again. Thank you. Bye.